turning to get out of jail. Here's the singer during a court appearance in March. He's awaiting trial on several sex crimes. Kelly's lawyer tried to get him released, saying he has prediabetes, is at greater risk for the coronavirus. The judge turned him down, saying he's a flight risk. Now his lawyer is taking his case to the federal appeals court in New York to try to get him released.
Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Go ahead, hit the like, hit the share. This video is going to be an update, and as you can see, R. Kelly appeals judges' repeated rulings denying him release on bond. Now, as I stated in another video, it should have been clear the motivation into this Instagram post that was shared by Azriel Clary. Every time R. Kelly has an update with his case, you see the fuckery. And as Larry, aka the grown man, pointed out on a live the other day, the video was old. So why was it put out there? You and I both know that answer. According to her, R. Kelly sent a hitman to kill her. Luckily, she escaped. It's interesting that Azriel has been the type to post any and everything. I have not once seen her post about getting a new car. Yet here we go. Somebody has tried to burn down her house and burned up her car. Now, I'm not a genius, but if a hitman was sent to kill her, do you really think they would have started the fire with her fucking car? Does that make any sense to you? They want her dead. They want to kill her, in her words. But the first thing they do is set fire to her car. I would think the first thing they would do is set the house on fire. Then set the car on fire on the way out. But hey, that's what happens when slow people come up with these bullshit narratives. As released on the CBS Chicago website, it says, after striking out in 3 attempts to convince a federal judge in New York to release him from jail due to the COVID-19 pandemic, indicted singer R. Kelly is now taking a swing in a federal appeals court, arguing the judge's medical conclusions are poor at best. As he awaits multiple trials on sex crime charges, Kelly's attorneys have filed 3 motions with U.S. District Judge Ann Donnelly in New York, requesting he be granted bail and released to home confinement and electronic monitoring at his condo in the South Loop. 3 times Donnelly has turned them down, ruling his attorneys have not shown he is at risk of contracting the virus and that he remains a flight risk and a danger to the community. Kelly's attorneys have argued his age of 53 and the fact he was recently diagnosed as pre-diabetic make him especially vulnerable to contracting the virus while locked up at Metropolitan Correctional Center in downtown Chicago. But Donnelly has not been swayed, ruling that neither his age nor his pre-diabetes are considered high-risk factors for COVID-19. On Tuesday, Kelly's attorneys filed a new motion with the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals asking the court to overturn Donnelly's rulings. The court's medical conclusions are poor at best, and the CDC claims are incorrect. They claim that because he is 53, not 75, he's not at risk for COVID. Clearly, risks increase with age, but there is not a rule that only people 75 and older are at risk. They are just at high risk. However, 50 through 75 is also an at-risk group. Kelly's attorneys wrote in their filings with the appeals court. Kelly's lawyers also argued they cannot properly prepare for his upcoming trials, the first of which is scheduled for September, because they can only speak to him for 15 to 30 minutes at a time. Presently, none of Mr. Kelly's attorneys are even allowed to visit with him at the MCC Chicago. No one is allowed in. There are no means by which to have lengthy conversations, as they are limited to 15 minutes, occasionally 30. There are no means by which to review evidence which Mr. Kelly show him documents, review photographs, or discuss strategy, they wrote. Defense attorneys also said Kelly has literacy issues that make it impossible to prepare for trial without meeting him in person. They are asking the appeals court to reverse Donnelly's ruling and order him released from custody with any conditions they deem necessary. Federal prosecutors have yet to respond to Kelly's motion, but in the past have repeatedly argued he is a flight risk, and if he is released, he would also pose a risk of witness tampering. The feds have noted the charged Kelly now faces accuse him of threatening witnesses and paying bribes to keep witnesses from cooperating in the previous child pornography case against him in 2008. Kelly faces sex crime charges in 4 separate jurisdictions in Chicago, New York, and Minnesota. The federal charges in New York accuse Kelly of using his fame to recruit young women and girls for illegal sexual activity. The racketeering case also accuses him of kidnapping, sexual exploitation of a child, and forced labor. Jury selection in that case is now scheduled to begin on September 29th. Federal prosecutors in Chicago have charged him with videotaping himself having sex with underage girls and paying hush money and intimidating witnesses to cover up his crimes. That trial is scheduled for October. Cook County prosecutors have charged Kelly with multiple sexual abuse against 4 women years ago. The first of those trials is scheduled for September. Minnesota prosecutors have charged him with engaging in prostitution with an underage girl. No trial date has been set in that case. It's unclear if any of Kelly's trials will be held as currently scheduled due to the coronavirus pandemic. If convicted of all the charges, Kelly could face the rest of his life in prison. Now, I think we've already established that there is clearly a conflict of interest with this judge and Donnelly. But we can only wait to see what the verdict will be with this new judge. I just wanted to take this second to remind people of an incident in which another guy is pretty much in the same boat as R. Kelly. Because so many people, they get turned off by the topic at hand merely because it's a celebrity. And as I've told them, this could be you, this could be your son at any moment. So let's give an example of a regular person who has pretty much been put in a similar situation as R. Kelly. Do you all remember Jasmine Elin and Dominique Williams? Well, that was the first thing that I started really talking about when it comes to sexual abuse cases on this channel. And if you go back to those videos I did at that time, you would notice that I was completely on Jasmine Elin's side. Well, that is until I began to continue to watch her as things progressed. I saw on social media that Dominique was granted bond. However, I haven't been able to find any clips or anything as far as the news to verify that. But just to remind you, he has been incarcerated for almost a year now, based on the fact that Jasmine Eland's video went viral of what appeared to be a clear case of sexual assault. The thing is, if you had continued to follow the story and follow her so-called husband, you would have started to realize something ain't right about this. And then, just like that, another victim emerges saying that she was sexually assaulted by him as well. So for me, that was like, hold up. Maybe no, that doesn't make any sense. So again, I continued to watch. And as I watched, it became clear to me that it seems this whole case was to sue that opera club. True enough, in what I said about Dominique, as far as if she appeared to be passed out, he had absolutely no business putting his fingers nowhere in her, on her, none of that. At the point in which she starts screaming, saying, no, 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 that would be the perfect opportunity to walk the fuck away. But this is the perfect scenario of how someone could plot up on a man, or it could be a woman. You go through this elaborate plot with the end goal to be a lawsuit. Now, as far as I know, this has yet to be settled, but the next thing that caught me by surprise was when I started seeing the Savages contacting and corresponding with the attorney in this case. That definitely sent up a red flag. So when I see all these people doing the most, it just makes me wonder. Because anybody knows that this can happen to anybody. R. Kelly just happens to be the public figure that we're seeing this all play out with. But at the end of the day, he is not now nor ever will be the last person to be unjustly incarcerated, locked up until they're proven innocent. Even though everything that these so-called patriotic people say is all about innocent until proven guilty, certain people don't have that luxury. Certain people are guilty until proven innocent. And it's just strange that, yet again, social media led this case. When I first saw it, yes, it was odd that a person would be recording. But again, I believed her and took her word for it. But this is the perfect example of how it's okay to ask questions when it comes to a person's life being on the line. It should not be offensive to ask victims questions about the events in which they want to portray. And the biggest thing that I hate with all this going around is so many people want to say that we're victim shaming and pointing out the obvious. That there's clear deception in this case. This man has been set up and his rights are being violated. So as we proceed and as we listen to these people yell Black Lives Matter, let's also remember R. Kelly's life matters as well. And thus far, he has not been convicted of any crime, yet he has been incarcerated for almost a year. At what point do we start asking, what do we need to do to change this system in which people are legally held captive in these jails facilities even though they're not convicted of a crime? Bond being denied. We all know that there's clear corruption in this case. And we all know that there's clearly a conflict in interest in this case. Now, we're just pretty much playing the waiting game. Those of you that are spiritual, religious, or whatever you want to call it, should recognize this spiritual war that we're facing. What are your thoughts on the fact that Azriel pops up with this bullshit story about someone trying to kill her? Even though, as we read from what the attorneys are saying, they barely can contact R. Kelly. Yet all these people want to keep maintaining they're having contact with R. Kelly. That's leaving a door open for a situation such as this, when someone such as Azriel can come out and say R. Kelly's threatening or harassing her, and or sending other people to do so. Leave your comments below, and have a great night.